we're going to be in Exodus chapter 20. That is where God gives the law, His law, to the people of Israel.
Ngunne ma pemeda ma teacher siple ma dun ban na shena heba po ken ma pem method ma tumre adata ma julpusi ide ma asi ngena ma ameni temeni tote.
In Exodus chapter 20 is where God gives the 10 commandments.
Ai ma ite ba at po pem me ide teacher siple ma dun ban na shena ma pem method ma tumre adata ite ma ase tengmu tengya ama au te sai se au te se ku no no.
You've heard me say this a number of times, that when we are studying one portion of the Bible, we have to look at many parts of the Bible.
Ni ba sra hi choto pe go he ken ne da pe me da li sa to po pen be si so to po ne ma be me pa to pa da li sa ra ro to po no to po si ga.
And it's true here too, because all through the Bible, it talks about the law.
Me asana ba po ma to sa na pe hin ko me te ne ma ba li sa ra lo pli aku li da kelu no so lo ma una ai hi ti da ma ite te so se ite ya rikya ko.
When Christians talk about the law, many times they refer to it as the law of Moses.
Ni ba ma kribusi asina ha a heda ma te so se a he rikya ne ma to por ke ma ai lu na da ma ku Moses te so se ko.
Now, in the New Testament, or I should say, in the Bible, when it talks about God's law, sometimes they're talking about the first 5 books of the Bible.
Dali sa la kunna ma to por ke a heda jamre ide te so se a hena ma to por ke ma heda ma hi be she na ma ite li sa la ara ide nge ono kunga.
That is because in Exodus chapter 20, it's only talking about a part of the law. The 10 Commandments is only a part of the law.
Mi te ma da ma ite na teacher si pleku mi te ma dun man ne ma a heda ma te so se ma a he pa ba ite apata au pata ki ve ko he sana adula no pa ko ba ko au te se ku no ko ma ide sana da ai he pa ba ite ki ve ko.
The first 5 books were written by Moses, and they explained the whole law.
Da li sa alagu ma le nge ono ma shu ma da ma Moses ra ta lo ko he da nge or ko mai so lo pi da ma te so se de da kelu de no so lo ko ha dunia ko au in ne ko.
So when the law is spoken of, sometimes it's talking about the 10 Commandments. Sometimes it's talking about the first 5 books of the Bible.
Ni me na to por ke da li sa ko a he da ma te so se a he na ma ide a he be shana da ide ma te so se ma au ba te se ku ne ma tum ne da ta ma jur pu si te se ku ne to ne da a he lo pli pa da ma li sa re le nge on ko.
So the whole law is made up of 3 parts.
Da ma te so se a du le ko na ma sana au ide au so u kwe ga lu na so chu so chu ko.
The first part are the 10 Commandments.
Ara le to ko na ma da a he da ma te so se ma au te se ku ma tum ne da ta ma jur pu si no ko.
And that is in Exodus chapter 20.
Ba pe me thar ko ma au da ma teacher sible ma dun man na she.
The second part of the law is called, in English, we usually call it the ordinances. Trying to think of another. It is, the second part gives God's commands of how the Judapu people are to interact with each other. I'll explain that.
นี่มาเด้อน่าจะเจอนะมาอีเดเด้อให้บิชันนั้นมาเด้อจมเรชตาตึมาจูรุพุสินะก็ให้เด้อจูรุพุสิมาเตเพนเพรมาอันเปมิวเตกลอเตอันนั้นเด้ออันมีมูลมิวเตกลอเตสินะไอโชลูกะ
For instance, for us here in New York State, we have laws.
อันนั้นอุปมาเด้อเปโอเด้อนิวยอร์กสเตทคุณแน่นะมาอีเตเปเตนะมาเด้อดีอันละเต็งโอมันต้องมาอีเด the lawเอาไปเตียวอูก็
For instance, if you steal something, then this will happen to you.
เนี่ยแกน่ะแกน่ะในโหตจืๆเนี่ยมาอีเดแกปืนเนี่ยตรงเนี่ยกูไม่ใช่สนาเด้ออีเดสิเบคาเบเนาะก็อีเดแต่ไม่สุสา
And so, the second part of God's law talks about these types of laws.
นี่เด้อจำเรเฮเด้อมาเบิ่นมาเอาสมยให้มาเปเฮเด้อแต่ซอยซะดูลนกูเอาโซกูมันน่าจะเจนมาเฮเด้อมาเด้อสนาเด้อเปเตเปเบนี่ดากละดิเปเตเด้อเปโอเบอร์เทโฟเตเบอร์เทโฟเตเปลุยนี่ได้เตนะมันเอาเฮเด้อกูจะแกก็
For instance, if your cow kills a neighbor, what should happen?
นี่จะอุปมาแกน่ะแน่ปูเนาะค่ะมิซามาเตเกียมาเกียอุพุนเนี่ยเตหินะก็ให้ฮิวพุนเนี่ยเกียเนี่ยปูเนาะค่ะมิซาแกแล้วเนี่ยฮิวเกียอุพุนเนี่ยเตหิเนี่ยมาวันนั้นแค่เนี่ยมาอันนั้นเด้อซีบีคาเบนอยเต
The third part of the law is it describes what God has given to the Judapu of how to worship God.
นี่สดจะเจอนะมาเด้อมาจมเรอเด้อตาจุดฟูซินะมาไอโชลูเด้อได้สิ่งเงี้ยนะมาเอซิเบกุยเทจเบจมเรมีเตกละติน
In other words, how to approach God.
อันนี้อาเห็นมาซะนะเด้อไอสิ่งเงี้ยนะมาอาเฮลพูเจเด้อจมเรเฮลพูเจนะเด้อจมเรมีเต
Now, even though the law was given to Israel, it also teaches us when non-Judapu people, when they read the law, it tells them what it tells them about God's moral standards.
บ่มาเอเตเด้อลอปลิปิพารุกุนมาสนะเต็งโตเงี้ยตะเตียวตะเตีย whatever มาเกเนอาหินะดิเตเคลุมันจมเรมาอดตาเวมาจุรุพุสิงเงก็ให้มาอิสราพุสิงเงเวมันนะเด้อบะเปมาฮูจุรุพุสิมาโตเตหินะเกเนเมปาเคนมาสนะเด้อเปสิงเงก็เด้อมาเปเบียเซจมเรอดเพลนมาสนะเด้ออังเงนะมาอัตเตียวตัวเนบัตเตนะเปสิงเงก็
So in the Ten Commandments, God reveals what is right and what is wrong.
ตัวมันเด้อมาอีเตเด้อจมเรเด้อตาจุรุพุสิเตซอยมันเอาแต่เซคุนกุนก็มันคินมาไอโชจุรุพุสินะเด้อสิงเงนะมาอะเบอะเตซึงมามีเตกลติน
In America, our country has drifted so far away from the Bible that many people do not know what is right and what is wrong.
นี่คุณเนี่ยเป็นแม่เด็กคนละกินมามีเตกี้สินว่าเอาเอ็นเนี่ยเด้อสินอะเด็กเรามาจุ่มรังงสิที่เห็นให้เมียนะเด้อสิงเงี้ยมาอาเซนเด้ออะเรบเตอร์กี้อะเตอร์เรตุเตอร์กี้อะเตมาสิงเจจุก
When you do not know God's right and wrong, then your thinking can become very crazy.
นี่เมียนะว่ากินเนี่ยเด้อสิงเงี้ยก็เด้อมาจุ่มเรอะเฮเด้ออะเรตกี้นะอะเรตุกี้นะมาเป็นสิงเจตัวสิงเงี้ยตัวอะสิงเงี้ยตัวเนี่ยมาเด้อสิงเงี้ยนะมาเซนะชุชิมูเด้ออะเลตเนี่ยมาเซนะอะตนี่เทป่าเจ้าหนูก้องสินบ่
I'm sure you know about the craziness going on today here in this country.
Ni si met thano ko ve ke ma de ke si thi si na te ni mi te mi te no ha sana de asana at mui chong klon hin ko.
In schools on the West Coast, there are some colleges, I can think of one college, that they are now putting things that women use for their menstrual cycle. They are putting them in men's rooms.
Where's the West Coast?
California. I'm thinking of a huge college, state college in California.
Ni upama ko he kun ne ma de pe me de ide state athake amadom amyo ma da sana da California ya na da oda ayam me ko he ba de asi de college si josin ma kun ne ma azana da promote si le he ne ma le le kasi ko de he kelu ne ma de shu da ma promote da pu ko ma kun ne ma asi de to cha pa da ma prekusi da pu ko.
In some schools in the United States, teachers want to teach little kids to help them decide whether they are men or women.
Ni so ba cho te si na ma sana da si sra mo si te ko sra mo si ma si so pu che si da si pu che na ti pa ne ko ma na si so lo da de si ngi na ma kun ne da si te du adu te ne ma si top mo do ni si top ko ai so mi na.
Only several weeks ago, a new Supreme Court justice was chosen.
Ni da ke pa na ma sana he ma te adu ji lu si lo pi ma o lu san te pre ko he ma na te pre ma ya te ko na ba a yu ka se po ke te pre.
She will sit on the highest court in the land.
One of the the
Supreme
highest
Court.
I thought there was 9.
Yes.
Okay. Và da ma he a se pre ma promo ko he no ngi na ma sana da de sana amui du atune atul just pre ja hun no.
Yeah, when one dies or retires, they have to be replaced. One of the questions that the senators, I think it was the senators that asked her was, do you know what a woman is?
No ba asi yu ake na ma senator ma ke te hima da asi asana da pe do pe New York na ma on na pre ko he asana do ma on na pre ko ba the pre no ha shu de lo ma da ite te du ji promo pre na shu de na a shu de lo ga na da ma promo na ma mai te na ni singi.
She could not answer the question.
Mana da promo ngi na ma a he shu ga kya che pe to ko.
Because she did not want to offend people that have crazy ideas of men and women.
Ni me te a he shu che kya sa to me te ne ma kin a he te che ne ma au e lo ga ma da kin a he na promo ma o promo te ma da ai nu ko lo si ne ma ke te ne ma a zena au ma to a he nu si ai sho ga kya sa e ko.
But if people in this world want to know what God thinks about the way things should be and what is right and wrong, they can read here what God thinks.
Ni mana ke ne ke te he si da si ngi ka da ma chamre bisu lo ku no ma re ba te kya te re to te kya te si ngi ne ma da pha de li se ko ma ni me ko.
Most people do not have a good understanding of God's law.
Ni au en ne ke te he ma da si ngi ma da chamre ai ali so ta pe ai so pe ma me ni te mi ni do te ai so to class ni ma te ni ma asingi pa ka to ko.
If you ask most people why God gave his law, most people will say, well, if you obey those, then you'll go to heaven.
Ni ken ne ma pe shu de ke te he ko he da ma me te chom ra da ta jur fu si de ide te swa no ko se khu me te shu de ne ma te ma hina okay ne ni da ne me sa na da chom ra shu ne ma ne te ni no da ma ku ba a hi no.
Well, that is not true. And the Bible is very clear that that is not true.
Manada as a little name class I show I hate the cinema. It is a silo with him mother the second I show that in another below Tedamokuma below me creating.
If a person could be absolutely perfect before God every moment of his life, then God would allow him into heaven.
Anida at the Nina, the Kia the Prima, at one and near the Puchik to Rakune, Dula, had the second of the Choto, and Nida, me. At Sana Atore, near the Timber this block who name under Engina Martinira Mokupa.
And that is absolutely impossible.
Nimanada pay him in a class cinema. I thought you had the kettle, then I thought a little bit of
I could say a lot of things about that, but the reason why God gave the law, and the reason why he gave, for instance, the 10 Commandments, I'll say.
Amaba mimite chomren ha data ite ma pe he hu mudut pusi mada te swat se kuno komite ne ma.
One reason is to show us how holy God is.
Ara the jana ma mimite chomren da pe me he ma sanada asi no te du me pe da ma chomren ma ate sa sa dunia to allo batte no.
Do you remember last week when God was getting ready to give his law? It was very scary.
That last week?
Last week? Yeah, Exodus 19. We talked about Mount Sinai.
Ma yeah đó là khi tôi bắt đầu có mà bị mẹ thở mà đó bữa trong rồi anh make lẽ khi anh đã judo pussy mà anh nó ngủ mệt kia tiêu no I don't know mà ada claimada make lẽ đó cholo này hay bana khi nào make lẽ tôi mà kia xin hoa xin xin này bắt tên nó.
God gave the law to Moses on Mount Sinai.
Đó trong rồi cái đó mà ide so mà ta sẽ khu nó mà cái đó choku cái đó nó khu Moses.
If any of the people or even any of their animals got near the foot of the mountain, they would have to be killed.
Anh mà kia này judo thì bà anh mới have phu. Bà chúng rồi make lẽ kia này cáiตัวkia này nó mà judo thì gì phụ được gì về cái này have phu đó cholon nó phu này mà đó as in mà thì mà anh dân đó kia bị research ấy gì cơ.
The mountain burned with it burned with smoke that was like a furnace.
Mình đấy mà đó ite show khu ở cô mà anh đó ite micro thật đun nè, và anh đó mà ite áo cho đó ite lệ sự cho luôn nó mì cơ, anh đó lệ sự luôn.
There was thunder and lightning.
Thôi cái gì mokro nó chỉ là ủ.
And the mountain shook like an earthquake.
Thôi đó show khu ở cô mà anh đó ite aku yo anh đó mà ite hay cô nào bỏ phê chân thì nó.
This was not because God was angry. It was because God is so holy that men who are sinners cannot approach him.
Đã mình lâu hơn lâu mới tên nên mà sana đó chúng mình hoa sana asi mà ite mưng che mà hi khu hay mà tụi nó sana asi chỉ ra nó cái tụ mình mới tên nên mà đó chúng mình mà tại sao sana adunin nè nó sana đó bị hi khu gì đó mà bị tại sao gì thì gì mà bị hay phơi mà nhỉ tụi.
And then God gave his commandments that were impossible to completely obey.
Như vậy đó chúng mình hoa cái đêm cũng muốn ra đó ite tại sao mà tại sao không có hay mà đó ite lâu play show nữa mà nó bị hi khu bị mình sana đại show nữa mà sana anh nhỉ cho tụi nó sana.
And that is because God is perfectly holy and we are sinners.
Ni pe tua sana pe me re lo pe tua lo bate be ko ha sana da ide pe message na da chomre sho to mete ne ma da chomre na ma ada alkleda pe akhina ma en ma ta sa na to ne adu thulo ko he ma da pe ngi na ma shushi ma da te su si the na ko
What is important to remember about the Ten Commandments is that it shows us clearly that we are sinners.
ni da da ide ayi chilo ko ma pen lo to ma ma te ne ma da chumre akleda pe ma akleda ite te sama te se kur ko na ma ado me pe na da pe ngi na ma pe te su cho adu ne au ba te ja
It cannot make us holy. It can only tell us what a perfect person would do, would obey.
ni da pe da ai sho pe na ma sa na da ami to mi re se pe hun ko ma to ko he ai sho we da ma ite da kia to le ite are le te prima mo te klot te sa do me pe hun
A Judapu person who had a heart for God would say, they would think, I am a terrible sinner. I cannot completely obey God's law.
ni jur phu da ma ite ani da chom rango te he ma da te he ne ma ezin ma hina kina abi ame mi se na da chom rai chon ne ma angi na ma mi che to a hina ko ten ni da lo pli mi se na chom re lango ai chu pi na ma mi lo che to
God would not even let me get near the bottom of the mountain.
ni da chom re ma da ite anno cho phu che cho na da ma solon to phu to
So how can I approach God if He is holy and I am a sinner?
me no anda pingin na ma sana pe he u phu che chom re mi te ke na da chom re ma a to re lo de pre ma na da ma shu shu ma da te su
So the third part of the law showed the Judapu there was a way to approach God even though they were sinners.
ba da ke lu ke pe ma te so du lo ko no ko ha so khwai lo so che ko he da so che ma da chom re ai so pe da ma da pingin na ma pe he u phu che na chom re mi te na
Does anybody know what that way was for them to approach God?
mo pe sing pe na da pingin na ma sa na da pe he u phu che na chom re na ma mi te klo te na
That way was the system of worship that they had.
da sing na ma he u phu che chom re mi te ne ma da ba asi asha ke ba ke na ma asi le he ku cho be mi te asi he plo mi te si na ma o di he sa na hu da abe mi na klo te sa na he u phu che na chom re ni
They had to approach God with animal sacrifices.
ni da sing na ma asi si he u phu na chom re si be shu na chom re ne ma asi be he pya ni na sa na te phu de lo ka sa na be ha mi sa te phu de lo
You know, this week as I studied this, I thought there would be a question that a Judapu person would have back then.
ni da ona sra pha ke na ma ona te ni na ke na ba ke na ma ide jur po to pre ka ke sa na da ide chom re no anno he o phu si ne ma sa na da abe mi sa te phu de lo ne ma te na ma abe te ni ko he sa na da ami sha ke te ya te ni mi ma
So here is a Judapu person. He realizes that this week he's been a sinner, terrible sinner, and he brings his animal to the priest to be sacrificed.
ni me te ni me ko he da jur fu o to pre na ma engin ma hina ama mi me te da ena ha mi ate su o ne na ha e hen apya ni ma te phu de lo do ma he no me sa na da ma ide esi ide sa du lo pre na ma
If we were one of these Judapu persons, maybe we would have the same question.
kera ne pe kena pe na ma pe twa jur fu ko he ma pe ko ba asha ke ba na ke ne ma da pingi na ma pe te ne pe shi su de se na da jur fu si ba na ke
I'm bringing my animal to the priest,
ma ba ke na ma pe phya ni a pe te pu de la ta ma pe he da na ide sa du lo pre
I would think, maybe you would think, maybe you would have the question, if I am the one that sinned, why does this animal have to die?
Ni mera te thi na ma te ne ko ha ya na. Ke ne da te su na ma da pe va ma na mi me te ma abi pla pe te su na ma da ma te putu la te do mi te.
The animal did nothing wrong.
Ani zana te putu la te do na ma a te su na te chato.
Now, what does that sound like?
Ni ba pe he ra ku na ma a senai te. A senai shu pe te.
Does that sound like Yeshu?
Ani a he sena na ma te Yeshu re kya ko.
And it's supposed to sound like Yeshu.
Ani abe da pe te ne ko si na ma be sha na da ma be se shu ha so pingi ko.
Because the law is impossible to completely obey. Well, say that much.
Me te ma da cham ra da ta pe ma te so ma te se khu no ko no ha lo pli ai shu pe na ma sana me te na pingi na ma pe me re to ba te be ko ha sana da te a me sana da ma cham ai shu to ko.
There should have been a great desire of the Judapu person to want somebody or something to deal with their sin.
Ani da jurpu singe na singe ba te asinge ne ko ha da singe na ma a to a re la a to che ni to ba ma na da singe na ma da asi te su ra du ne na ha si singe na ma bin bi pli ke che me te una bit ne ka ko.
So when Yeshu came to earth, the Judapu people should have been so thrilled that now they had an answer for their sin.
Ani mera ha da ma ite jurpu singe na ha mi te bia se su ha to da he khu ne he ba na ke na ma da singe na ma ambe mo ne ne si plok me te na ma ba bia se su ha to ke na da asite su na ma ambe mi pli ke che me te ne ma si singe ke singe tu singe ba na ke na me ko me na ma da singe na ma be si krisi lo kan ne ke.
But most of them did not.
Mana o ne ma da asina amu si plok to si krisi lo to.
Now, I see that I've already run out of time.